Hello Internet, my name is Persephone and welcome to my channel. Today we're talking Collector's Bounty, the buff Blizzard is adding from July 1st to July 29th to legacy content that adds a flat 5% drop chance to all pre-Dragonflight raid and dungeon mounts that aren't already guaranteed drops, increasing the drop rate an unspecified amount on certain legendaries and toys, as well as doubling the amount of transmog from old content. For most people this sounds like a collector's wet dream, and it is. There are some naysayers we will ignore though, because all they do is bring down the mood. Firstly, what this buff isn't touching. This doesn't affect most toys or any pets, so if you thought this was finally your chance to snag Remornia from Castle Nathria, or Fandrel's Seed Pouch from Firelands, think again. What it does do, however, is take all those 1 out of 100 raid mounts from 15 years ago and make them closer to a 1 out of 16 attempt drop rate, and the 1 out of 200 dungeon mounts to a 1 in 18 drop rate. This also means that bosses that originally dropped 2 pieces of loot will drop 4 for the length of the event, etc. So 3 to 6, 4 to 8. With all that in mind, even the most seasoned collector is going to be overwhelmed with tasks to do, so I'm here to share tips and tricks from the pros to help make your grind a little easier. Before you ever step foot into an instance, it's important to understand how lockouts work and what you can do to help yourself when you hit the dreaded lockout cap when farming. WoW gives you 10 instance lockouts per hour, per server, and per WoW account, with the ability for buffer dungeons if you're at lockout from farming a singular instance on one character 10 times. What that means is, if you were to say, run 10 Strathholmes going after Rivendare's Charger and you hit your dungeon lockout with 30 minutes remaining, before you can run it again, you have options. Firstly, you can simply switch to a character on a different server. WoW lockouts are server dependent, so switching to a character on another server will give you a clean slate. Secondly, if you have one, a secondary WoW account is also an option. I know owning more than one WoW account is the minority for players, but the option is still there if you're one of the few who has them like I do. The third option is just to go run something else. This option works only if you've ran the same instance and difficulty on one character for all 10 runs, and will not work if you run 10 different instances or 10 different characters or a combination of those. Blizzard has a safeguard in place for this, that once you hit a dungeon lockout, you can run one of any other dungeon on top of the 10 continuously. This will hinder your lockouts from resetting, adding onto it like that, so I would consider this an option only if you don't have access to the other ones. If this seems confusing on how the one of anything else works, here's an example. Say you run those 10 Strathholmes earlier on your Druid for the Charger and hit cap. You can then go run one Scholomance, and then one Scarlet Monastery, and then one Shadowfang Keep, etc, etc. Your final option is to simply go do something else, but we're WoW players and collectors. We both know that's not really an option. Once you understand lockouts, your next big hurdle is choosing which character to use. Obviously, for certain mounts or lockout types, you really can't be all that choosy, as you'll most likely need as many characters as you can get your hands on. But when talking about items that drop from normal difficulty lockouts, that character that you choose can make a huge difference. Personally, my character of choice is a Feral Druid, always. The base speed you get from skills and abilities, as well as the Druid Order Hall, Dreamwalk teleport option makes Druid the #1 choice for clearing old content. Mobility is key. Speaking of mobility, Blizzard actually gives us quite a few tools to move around the world very quickly. Outside of the normal capital city portals for both factions, we have toys and items that can port you around, and even a set of teleports directly to dungeons from pet battles. The pet battle teleports are amazing. You have access to them once you unlock the pet battle dungeons, and can use them in Legion Dalaran and the 2 BFA capital cities. They can port you directly to Wailing Caverns, Deadmines, Nomergon, Blackrock Depths, and Strathholm. As Horde, Deadmines, Blackrock Depths, and Strathholm are huge travel boosts for me, and as Alliance, Wailing Caverns replaces Deadmines in the top 3. You do have to unlock these through pet battles, but even outside this collector's bounty, these ports are so useful if you have pets to do it. I 100% think it's worth the time. In the items category, there are 2 that spring to mind. The Dire Brew Remote from Brewfest that will port you inside Blackrock Depths, which is a good alternative if you happen to have it in your bank, but will cause a lockout for BRD, so keep that in mind. There's also the gear options. There is lots of gear within WoW that'll port you around. Faction-specific cloaks and rings that will take you to your capital cities can be useful, but mainly if you're running a lot of different content and having issues with your Hearthstone cooldowns. There's the Argent Crusader's Tabard that will teleport you to Argent Tournament and Icecrown, available for 50 champion seals, which would be helpful getting to ICC and Ulduar for Invincible and Mim's Head. There's also a lot of jewelry available to raids or cities. The Blessed Medallion of Karabor is rewarded from a quest in the Black Temple, and will teleport you to the steps. Violet Seal of the Grand Magus will teleport you to Karazhan, and the Signet of the Kirin Tor will take you to Rath Dalaran. Speaking of Rath Dalaran, there's also Jaina's Locket. Anyone who did trash piles early in Undermine will know that this item drops a portal that anyone in your group can use to get to Rath Dalaran. That was fun times, wasn't it? Toys can also take you places. Obviously, engineers have access to the wormhole generators and ultra-safe transporters, which are huge for travel time. A toy that everyone can use, though, is particularly relevant because today also happens to start the time-walking event it's available during, and that's the Fractured Necrolite Skull. Like the Blessed Medallion of Karabor, this toy ports you to the steps of Black Temple, and instead of sacrificing a bag slot for the medallion, you sacrifice a critter. If you happen to not be somewhere with easy access to critters, I suggest pairing it with the Critter Hand Cannon toy that will launch a bunch of furry friends in front of you to sacrifice. Honorable mention in the Teleport You Around category is the Last Relic of Argus, an item from archaeology that will port you randomly to one of 25 locations. Obviously, being completely random, you'd think, wow, Purse, this sounds so unhelpful, and you'd be right. Mostly. I wanted to add this item because it can be a huge help in decision paralysis. Let the relic decide your next farm. Use the item and go to the closest instance you need items from. A lot of collection items are available in LFR, so here's where you can find every LFR queue Shadowlands and before. In Shadowlands, Telefar is an Orbos near the command table, and Covenant choices, which will queue you for each wing. In BFA, Kiku and Borealis and Epu and the Great Seal can queue you for LFR. If you are going after Gmod, make sure you know about this one, as you can save a lot of time running Battle of Drazara Lore and skip right to the end by queuing for Victory or Death as Horde, or Might of the Alliance as Alliance. In Legion Dalaran, Archmage Timir can be found near the Violet Hold, just by the water. In Warlords, you have to have at least a level 2 garrison, and Seeker Khazal will chill right outside your Great Hall, and you can queue for all of the wings there. In Mists of Pandaria, Lorewalker Han is in the Seat of Knowledge above Mogusham Palace and Vale of Eternal Blossoms. There is also the Sunreaver and Kirin Tor beacons. Faction-specific toys that can cut down significantly on travel time to Isle of Thunder. Obviously, with Remix last year, the list of people who will need to get to Isle is probably a lot shorter than it was, but if you happen to need things there, you can queue for a Throne of Thunder LFR wing from Lorewalker Han, and use your faction's associated beacon, and it will port you to your Isle of Thunder staging location. In Kata, Aradormi is in the Caverns of Time directly in front of Dragonsoul, which was the first available LFR. Another bit of advice I can give to you as a collector and a goal maker, if you have not already and plan to run Zul'Gurub, Naxxramas, Scholomance, or Stratholme, do the unlocks. Not only are there unique items tied to the unlock, it also gives you the option to get drops exclusively to set unlocks that can make you a lot of gold or just boost your own collections. I'll link to the Wowhead unlock guides in the description for more information. Finally, let's go over the tools you can use to help that are outside of WoW itself. And I don't just mean go to Wowhead. There are 3 major sites that I use to help track my collection: Data for Azeroth, WowThing, and Simple Armory. Data for Azeroth will load your entire account and show you every item you're missing. It applies a value to everything you have and ranks you among other players. Lately, I've been using this mainly to track specific expansions, dungeons, and raids to target for my non-mount related collection. WowThing is the next site. It's rough around the edges for sure, and a pain in the butt to set up, but once loaded, it will track so many things. For the purposes of this collection event, I'm suggesting it to people so they can find which characters have the furthest progress on raid skips, as to make finishing them and farming the boss for mounts easier. The final site is the one I assume most people are going to be relying on for this event, and that's Simple Armory. It displays a simplified version of all your mounts, pets, toys, heirlooms, achievements, titles, and reputations. This site gives you an easy visual of exactly what you need so you can fill in the boxes. There is also a feature right at the top of the mount page called Show Planner. When you click this, it gives you a detailed breakdown of the instance mounts you're missing and where to go and get them, and even includes travel. This will be especially helpful for those of you casting wide nets and not hyper-focusing on 1 or 2 mounts. It is of note, though, that Simple Armory pulls up a character specific, and because of that, you will miss anything that is related to the opposite faction. So make sure that if you're just using it outside of this event to look up things, make sure you're looking at both of them. Obviously, this isn't all my knowledge that could be helpful for the collector's bounty. There's a lot of here's an easy way to kill this boss and do this and benefit that I didn't add because I don't want this video to be an hour long. But I think this is a good starting point to get people going. If you have suggestions on tips that I didn't cover, please share them in the comments. This month is going to be crazy for collectors, even for collectors like me with only one mount I'm chasing, and I hope we can all get through it in one piece. Happy hunting, and may the odds be ever in your favor. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to hit the like button. If you want to see more videos by me, make sure to subscribe. And don't forget to comment any questions, compliments, or concerns you may have down below.